2 clocks. The one up there says we still have 3 minutes, but call the meeting to order. Start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks everybody for coming. Trying to make this as exciting and riveting as always for you all. Start out with our regular consent agenda items. We have approved regular meeting minutes of June 3rd and approved the special meeting minutes of June 10th.
Chairman, I so moved. My words weren't coming out today.
The motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We have action items A, B, and C.
I'll make a motion to approve action items A, B, and C. Vouchers for $14,123.02. Voucher item B, $20,020.02. Voucher item number C, $61.90.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Scott, would you like to start?
Sure. Got it pulled up here. Of course, I did the regular meeting on June 3rd, special meeting June 10th. Boy, my words aren't coming today. June 11th, we had the North Bay Historical Society meeting, the Oyster House. And June 12th through the 14th, the WPPA Financial Seminar, which was Washington Public Ports Association seminar. That was really educational. You know, the cyber hack information was pretty amazing. It was pretty scary. They brought in a speaker. Her name was Helen Thayer. She was really awesome. She's inspirational. She was the first woman to get up to the North Pole. Man, this is sad. Anyway, and then also June 21st, Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization at the Jamestown Sklallam Tribe, and we're officially transferred to Kitsap Transit as the administrative entity, and Jefferson County is our fiscal agent. And then, of course, the North Mason Community Voice, June 24th, and Lenny Griffin spoke and gave some really good information, good historical presentation. So thank you, Lenny. That was it.
So I attended the general meeting, the special meeting, and then, like Commissioner Scott said, it was the finance meeting was outstanding. The first day was over my head. Second day I started picking it up, but there's a lot to learn about ports. So that was very, very educational. So that was about it.
Awesome. I as well attended the regular board meeting, the special meeting. I came down and I met with the contractors regarding the emergency repair to our dock, and I attended the Economic Development Council meeting for the month. I was unable to attend the financial seminar, even though it is my favorite seminar to go to, but it was safety days that week. So 2 of the 3 days of the financial seminar was safety days, and safety days always wins out. So I did not miss a safety days for that. But I think I said last meeting that every time I fill out a form at the end of a meeting, I say, let's have it at Alderbrook, and then they finally started having it at Alderbrook, and I can't make it. It's in my back door.
It was great, too.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's a great venue, and I actually saw Helen Thayer speak at the Sheriff's Breakfast one time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
She's
pretty
incredible.
awesome. Yeah, pretty neat.
Yeah, she crossed the Gobi Desert with her husband as well. Just
She did something big on her 80th birthday, but I don't remember what it was.
If I could throw a plug for Helen, I've gotten to know her over the last 10 years, my family and I, and she's an amazing lady. If you ever get a chance to read her book, her first book was called Polar Dreams, where she hiked up to the magnetic North Pole by herself. And the Inuit tribe demanded that she took a dog, which was by the name of Charlie. And that dog lived over 23 years. But if you want a fun book to read, read her books. On her 80th birthday, she was the first person to hike across the Death Valley by herself. By herself. This year, she's doing it with one of her new dogs. And she's a huge supporter of law enforcement and firefighters, and she's all of about 5'1". Sir Edmund Hillary was her mentor when she grew up in New Zealand, and she is a spark plug. So she would love, I asked her, I said, would you love to come speak to a port meeting? And she said, yes, I would. So
Awesome.
and maybe we could pack this room with hopefully younger people to get inspired. So she is an amazing, amazing person.
I bought all 3 of her books. I
Good.
read the Gobi Desert one in one day, and I don't read books.
That's cool.
It was great.
Cool. All right, well, moving on to security officer report.
Travis Miles, Port Allen Security. Got off vacation, finally back, but the nights have been fairly active again. Had to actually tell somebody to leave at North Shore last night about midnight, so that's kind of new. But it seems like we're going to have an issue with the dock still being closed off. I did catch some people out there jumping off it a couple weeks back. With the warmer weather, it's hard to keep them from going down there. They just jumped the little gate fence that we got. So, and we've got the 4th of July coming up, and that's going to be pretty hectic with not having people going down there because it's still under repair, right? So,
Travis, do we have anybody at the marina on the North Shore?
Yeah.
I was there launching a boat yesterday. I didn't see any vessels there at all.
at the actual the pay pier,
Yes.
yeah, we actually have one that paid Sunday night for 7 days throughout the week, and then there was one there last night as well that did not pay that I documented. I've got a few tickets I need to drop off at the office. Every time I drove by, nobody was in this week, so.
My family and I launched our boat yesterday, which was,
Mhm.
it was a busy day.
Sure.
I watched 4 people launch their boats without paying.
Yeah,
One person recognized me,
sure.
and luckily the person that didn't pay got his truck stuck on a log.
Yeah,
And she said,
Right.
karma's, you know
Sure,
what.
right.
So we need to give you some tools.
well, what we need is the camera. That camera needs to be real. We've been playing the fake for so long, everybody knows it's not real. If we have a camera that I can check it when it activates, then I can log every license plate. And if there isn't proof of payment,
Correct.
then we can send them a bill. The other thing is not being having any criminalized rules. It's the hardest thing to enforce.
We'll get through
Sure.
that on the agenda. I've been going about this a lot of different ways. I've been on the board now for 1.5 years, and I said we'd get this done.
Right? Oh yeah.
I think we got a way to get it done. You're the only port security officer in Mesa County.
Yeah.
And so I'm really not too excited about having you enforce criminalized rules for all the ports. And I'll talk to the executive director, but I think we got a way to recoup some of that money when you're available. So,
Sure.
yeah.
It's a matter of being able to actually get people to recognize that there are consequences for not paying the bill. And that's our biggest stumbling block.
And do we have the Oyster Company, do they pay an annual launch fee?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They pay a
And it's
commercial launch.
bigger, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a few others that pay, and there's a lot of them that actually pay the $75 for the yearly pass. And if you're not seeing them pay, they might have a placard.
No, they were throwing up their Discover Pass on
Yeah,
their,
sometimes
so-
a lot of them think that works.
correct.
And the only time I can actually catch them is if I drive down there at a time where they're parked there and parked after using the boat launch.
Right.
And then I can actually document them if they paid or not. But when I drive down there, sometimes they're just not there.
But I was checking.
Sure.
So I was,
Okay.
yeah, they were putting up their Discovery Passes
And maybe another quick note is a big sign saying Discovery passes are not valid for use of the boat launch. Because, a lot of them would then recognize that, because some of them don't. Sorry.
So, July 3rd, Alderbrook has their fireworks, which, I mean, I'm sure our boat launch is gonna get hit
Sure.
a lot. So, that's why I was wondering if anybody was mooring down there.
Yeah, there's one that actually paid on Sunday night for an entire week.
Okay,
And then there was another one there that was there and had not paid, and he just got a ticket, and I'll be checking tonight to see if he's paid or not, so
all right.
go from there.
Travis, I was down here on Saturday evening. What time did you leave? Because I just missed you. So I was probably here at 5:30 or
Sure.
so. There was a wedding, so they blocked off. Is that something we do, is block off the parking, so only
No,
wedding on that
that's-
side?
That's something they did.
And then,
I noticed there were some cones that were stacked up.
And I had to park, because I had a trailer, I had to park over there. And there was somebody fishing at the end of the damaged part of the pier. There was
Sure.
a boat tied up to
Yeah.
it, and there was other people down past our
Right, and then occasionally boats will come in during the weekend especially and just tie up to the damaged
Step
part of the
over.
pier because they just either don't care, or we don't have any real notices down there either that for boaters, that as they come in saying the pier is closed, it's damaged. We just have it blocked off up here at the top.
Right, yeah, that's true.
So,
No, you know, we should have something. I'll
We
get
do
on
have
that.
Who's having bad? That was it. I just wanted
Sure.
to mention that it was kind of chaotic down here. There was people parked in front of the bathrooms,
Right.
and I had to back in there, and I think I probably irritated the owners down there because somebody had to come in.
and that
after
might
I
be
parked.
something that we should have on the rental contract that specifically states that they can't block the park off to other park goers.
Right.
You know, I mean, when you get a large enough wedding venue and a party, they might just start doing whatever they feel like because they feel like they own the place, so they
Right.
rent it easy.
I didn't mean to bombard you, but thank you
Oh,
very
no,
much.
please.
I know. believe me,
Bombarding
I
is the
know.
only way things are gonna get done.
Summers are big around here.
Yes, they are. That's where we have everything, because it's the big influx of people around here. And our facilities actually get used then.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
the winters
Park was
that
packed.
pretty much nothing goes on during the winter.
I gotta see all of Don's anti-theft devices in the restroom because I needed to use the restroom. The toilet paper holder chained to the wall.
Oh, yeah, it's been
Light
pretty
fixtures.
serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We
Travis.
have
Absolutely.
those custom
Thank you.
made.
All right, executive director's report.
All right. Appointment of an auditor. At the recent WPPA financial seminar, it was outlined as best practice that the port designate by name an official auditor. This must be done annually via resolution, so there is a resolution on the agenda to approve this. The auditor evaluates both audit and business risks to the port and reports to the commission. I've suggested that Leanne be that person since she works with the state auditor and handles the majority of our bookkeeping work. In my opinion, she is the best person to handle this very important task, unless of course one of you want to take it on. Financial reports, beginning this month, you will be receiving financial reports as part of your regular meeting packets. We're finally comfortable enough using Bias to be able to generate these reports with confidence that they are accurate. Water system issues. We've not heard anything recently concerning the 15 water availability letters issued to Cedarland Homes, except they did have us fill out a form confirming availability for a permit that they pulled. Joe Cedarland told me last month they're moving forward, have 2 sets of house plans being designed. They'll have 4 models totally and hopefully start construction this summer. He also said they've purchased a 7-acre parcel in front of Haven at Allyn and will be developing that as well. I expect I should hear back from him in the next few weeks. Haven at Allyn has also purchased the property on Wheelwright, 1 parcel north of Lakeland Drive. They're developing a memory care facility there. I had some discussions with Robert Baglio of the BJC Group earlier this year about water hookup fees for that project, but at the time he wasn't sure if he would be the general contractor or not. Pat McCullough is the engineer on that project, and he stopped by last week to look at as-built drawings for where the water lines are and confirm that BJC is the builder. The Eric Community Utilities proposal, nothing really new on this. As we have discussed previously, we've had some informal discussion with the Eric Community Utilities to purchase their water system, which is adjacent to ours. After discussing this with Mr. Carey, we decided the best path forward is to have the system appraised. However, finding somebody who actually does these kind of appraisals have been problematic at best. I contacted PUD number 1. They referred me to Evergreen Rural Water, of which we're members. The executive director said she would look into it and report back, but as of yet, and several phone calls, I haven't heard anything. Spoke with Mr. Carey today, and he brought up some good points we'll need to explore. Among those, there is state money available for larger systems, acquiring systems like his, but how does the state agency determine the value? We're going to look into that, and he and I will chat again this week and regroup about it. Property purchase, I've been told by Kim Sellers, our RCO grant manager, that after the projects had been ranked, we scored number 10 out of the 18 applications they received. Excuse me. And our request for the property purchase and staging area project is about 99% sure to be funded at 100%. RCO met on June 26 and 27 to make the final decisions on allocations. However, the money won't be available until August. While we received the property appraisal back, and it isn't anywhere near what the sellers told me their bottom line price is, I did some calculations on their net revenue after cost of sale and selling it to us in an eminent domain situation. Without the unknown cost of any repairs they would be required to make selling to a private party. So now we have to enter into negotiations with the seller and see where it goes. I had some discussion with the sellers, and I'm convinced we can make this work one way or another. Dock issues. As you know, we had hit a dead end with Honduras and engaged Foster Pepper to deal with them. And the rest of my report just went away here, so let me pull up the original one. I don't know what happened there. I've had computer problems all day and all day Saturday.
You want to read it off?
No, I got it. On Friday, we received an email from our attorney saying Honduras has made us an offer of $19,855.50 minus our $1,000 deductible, along with their rationale for that number. I've enclosed a copy of the email from the attorney in your meeting packets, along with my response, and a copy of Honduras' letter to our attorney explaining their rationale for that number, which is basically that the $19,855.50 offer was what Tim Zach did the job for. In fact, he couldn't do the job in a timely manner, in spite of us offering him a $10,000 premium to do the job when we needed it, is why we hired Marine Floats, who could. That offer is approximately 1/2 of what is needed to repair the southern section of the dock. We also have approximately $6,000 in attorney's fees, which would be 1/3 of that settlement. So when all is said and done, we would net approximately $12,800. We originally asked for the entire cost of the dock repair, $37,768, plus the cost of new floats for half of the center section, a little over $9,000. What I personally feel would be a fair and equitable settlement would be for Honduras to pay to replace the entire southern section of the dock. We would absorb the cost of replacing the damaged floats in the center section, which is over $9,000. We will waive any claims for lost revenue for the period. This matter's been in dispute, which is 6 months now. Honduras agrees to pay half our attorney's fees, which we wouldn't have incurred had they stepped up and done the right thing from the beginning. And we agree not to file any complaints with the Office of the Insurance Commissioner or make any other courts aware of such action. However, in talking to the attorney today, she feels we could probably get another $10,000 out of Honduras, but she didn't feel we'd be able to get the entire cost of replacing the southern section. So what I'm recommending we actually do is counter Honduras' offer with asking for the full amount of the replacement and waive the other costs other than half the attorney's fees. This is on your agenda for discussion and a decision which course of action you want me to pursue. Meanwhile, our attorneys, Foster Pepper, have merged with another large Seattle law firm, Garvey, Schubert, Bearer. The new firm is named Foster Garvey. All the folks we work with are staying, and Steve DiGiulio has become the managing partner.
So Joe's staying.
Yeah.
Joe's staying.
Yeah, no, Joe's staying. Since you all approved authorizing me to negotiate and deal with Marine Floats to build a new dock at the special meeting on June 10th, I sent them the contract, and they believe they can get it, if they can get it permitted, they can get it done and in place by July 19th, start of Allyn days. Marine Floats is asking for an emergency permit. Commissioner Netherlands said he would work to try and help expedite that. I had a couple of discussions with Chris Nelson at the county, and he said that Fish and Wildlife has to sign off on the permit, but it looks like they're going to agree to handle this as an emergency permit. Someone from Fish and Wildlife was supposed to come out and inspect it to approve the emergency permit, but so far we haven't seen anyone. I also reached out to our legislators asking them to help us make sure that happens. The last thing we need is for this project to be finished off-site and not be able to install it due to lack of a permit. Lobbying contract, Josh sent me a new contract which I assigned and returned. It's cancelable with a 30-day written notice. Put the copy in your meeting packets. Also, instead of the escalated rate this year and again next year, they average the cost on the balance on the 3-year agreement into one monthly cost that stays the same for the rest of the agreement at $23.78 a month. It was scheduled to be $2,500 for 2020 and $3,000 for 2021. We did add the last quarter of 2021 to the agreement as it was scheduled to expire in September. This helped lower the monthly cost and will help us get our 2022 ask figured out and in process before the legislative session begins. Security issues. I haven't had much time to research security systems since the last meeting, but I've done some preliminary research online, looking into the costs of what it'll take to install some kind of high-resolution wireless remote camera system here at the park, as well as at the Mid-Canal Boat Launch and Marina. There are systems available that will transmit images to cell phones from multiple cameras in multiple locations and store them for downloading if necessary for law enforcement documentation. I'm hoping to be able to set up about a half a dozen cameras for under $1,000. More on this as I learn more. There is a place in Tukwila called 25/7 Security that I'd like to go visit, as they appear to be the largest security equipment provider in this area. Hopefully I'll be able to do that, if not this week, sometime next week. I'd also asked Don to install sharps containers in all the restrooms here and at the kayak park, which he has now done. I believe we need to take steps to attempt to protect both our staff from harm as well as the general public. We've restricted the hours the restrooms are open in an attempt to minimize all this, but it's still a real problem. 3D building acquisition, nothing new to report. However, I have reached out to our legislators again last week about this and asked them to see if they can help us acquire this in an intergovernmental transfer. WPPA meeting schedules. Next up is the Executive Director Seminar, July 11th and 12th at Skamania Lodge. And then the annual Commissioner Seminar, July 22nd to 24th at Suncadia. The Environmental Seminar is September 26th and 27th at Campbell's Lodge in Chelan. We've made reservations for everyone for the Commissioner Seminar and the Environmental Seminar so we can get the rooms reserved. We can always cancel if someone can't make it, but if we do reservations late, as we found out at the annual meeting in Suncadia last year, we may end up paying much more than necessary if we don't. Retreat. We had previously discussed doing a retreat after the small ports meeting in October. Leanne is checking into getting a small meeting room to do this. We will need to discuss future projects and update our comprehensive scheme, but I'd like to know if any of you have specific subjects you'd like to discuss so we can develop an agenda. Vacation. I will be taking vacation time from August 13th through the 21st. Bryce and I are doing another baseball trip, only this time to the East Coast. Totem pole issue, nothing new to report. Old business, transient moorage expansion project. We can't move forward on this until the dock is repaired. Marine Floats is building the new floats and will have them in place hopefully by Allyn days. In talking with Marine Floats, we can pre-wire and pre-plumb the sections of the new dock and put the pedestals in place while the new floats are being fitted into place. We've also ordered the pay station for the boat launch as well, but it's still several weeks out for delivery. Sweetwater Park, nothing new to report on this other than we figured out that we sent the signed paperwork to RCO. They're supposed to get a deed issued for us. I emailed Kim Sellers at RCO. She said we should have had it by now. And she would look into it, she researched it, and it appears it may not have yet been processed. But Kim told me she's on it. Oyster House. I met with Bonnie Knight to set up a schedule of tasks to be performed on the stabilization and using the drawings Mike Ross did. Since Mike's drawings are not stamped by an engineer, I also forwarded them to Art Anderson and Associates, asked them to review them and make any changes that we'll need so we can get them stamped and get this out to bid ASAP. Criminalization of marina rules, nothing has happened on this. However, after the all ports meeting, I think if we press this issue in conjunction with the other ports, we may get somewhere. But I believe Commissioner Jackson has some additional information on this as well, as I know he's been working on it. The all ports meeting, the Kitsap all ports meeting, the next one's July 29th. That's my
So do business.
Have you heard anything from Art Anderson at all? In contact with him?
I called him today, but the guy that is working on it wasn't there today.
Okay.
So, but I did follow up with a phone call, just try to follow all that stuff up before the meeting, so.
Gotcha.
Anything for old business?
I just read it all.
Anything for new business?
I have something I want us to think about. As you know, I'm on the search committee for the Washington Public Courts Association executive director, and they've hired a search consultant. But they want to. I'm going to have a phone interview about what do we want as a small port in an executive director.
Who's the search firm?
Karis
Oh,
Consulting.
yeah, okay. They just got the new executive director for BIA.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's an ace.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so be thinking about it. Maybe by the end of the night, I can have a few items that you guys would like to see, so I can report back to them.
Well, I think we need to have somebody that understands the difference between the Port of Seattle and the Port of Avalon,
Yes.
you know, and what our needs are.
So what are some of our needs?
Medical benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small groups. I mean,
Yeah.
Eric wouldn't even consider it because it was too much time for his
Yeah.
staff to work.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, some of the stuff, when we go back to the criminalization of marina rules, it'd be nice to have an advocate down in Olympia that we can do something with, where we're not fighting with the Mason County Commissioners, the sheriff, the prosecutor to get these things done. I think we're in a unique position in Mason County. As I said earlier, Travis is the only security person around for all the ports in Mason County. And we've talked about, can I jump back and forth between?
Please.
So-
For me.
What I was looking at is that we make our marina rules civil. If we were to do criminalization of the marina rules, Travis has the authority to issue those criminal citations. We'd have to print up our criminal citations. So we'd have to print up boxes of citations for Travis to issue. If we were to do, and then we'd have to go through the prosecutor's office and, I mean, crying out loud, I know they won't run with them. If we were to do a civil infraction, like a speeding ticket, or if you run a red light camera, goes to Travis would issue that infraction, and then we have a collection agency pick it up. So that's where I'm leaning towards, but there's other criminal fines that occur at our port. I mean, criminal things that the county is not picking up, and the sheriff has made it
And
clear.
I know if I call the sheriff, they're not gonna get there in any amount of time. Yeah, I just get told them to go, get out of here.
Correct.
Leave, don't come back. And I've gone through the process of trying to get people trespassing.
You know, Travis, I can tell you as a 30-year law enforcement,
no.
trespass is a joke.
Yeah,
So,
no, it is. That's-
prosecutors, I dealt with 4 counties, they don't want to deal with it. So what I'm thinking is that as a Port of Allyn, we make these civil infractions. If you don't pay your launch fees, And we have some system whether Travis is there on hand to say, okay, this person just launched their boat and didn't pay, you can just put a written warning on there. And if it doesn't go to a written warning, I mean, if they don't pay up after the written warning, then it goes to a collection. But as a port, we have to set up a collection agency, and then we have to print up the infractions themselves. And infractions themselves are not cheap to print, or criminal citations are not print. I'm working it through. I'm trying to give Travis a tool where he can actually do something. Either hang some piece of paper. It's no fun to hang paper on cars, but especially when people.
I find ways, trust me.
Well, I used to tell my officers,
Windshield wipers are your friend.
print and go, run. So, because all you're going to do is get in an argument. But we're trying to work it out. We're getting absolutely no support from the sheriff, and he keeps on saying that he doesn't have the staff, which, yes or no, but part of his job, part of the sheriff's office job is to run through all commercial operations. But I want to give Travis a tool where if he sees a violation, he can deal with it. Not the criminal stuff. That's supposed to be the sheriff's job. So I'm working. I think we got it. As a port, we can issue civil penalties.
It's like a parking ticket.
It's an agreement that you use our facility. You're not doing. You're not paying for our facility. So now we're going to go after you civilly through a collection agency to collect the $7 or $5 that you didn't pay, which is going to turn out to $15 or $25 after the civil tax get through. So,
That, really.
yeah, it is.
It should be.
That $7
Yeah.
fine should be a $150 fine if it takes everybody's time.
Well, absolutely. That's where,
That's
as
what
a
it
port,
costs, really.
as a port, we recoup the money.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to give 50% to a collection agency.
Exactly. And then it's going to cost us, like I said, to print up a couple of books, which we're going to have to print up more than a couple. Probably going to have to print up 500,
Yeah, no, it's gonna do.
500 books in bulk. That's going to cost us a couple $1,000s. So,
Well, even the little crappy little ticket books that I have, just asking them to pay us, basically, those things cost, what, $300 or $400?
Yeah, they were like 400.
Do they ever pay?
Oh, sometimes they do.
Yeah, sometimes.
But I mean, all we can do is send them a letter in the mail saying, please pay us.
You know, which there's
And
a cost to
Some of them
that.
pay and some of them don't.
right. So that's where, and unless you're there on hand to watch who launched the boat, all you're getting is license plates or WN numbers. And so then you just attack it to that vehicle or to that boat.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go on your insurance, it's not going to go on anything else, it's just pay the fine. Otherwise, you're just going to have that civil penalty right over your head. So I think if we go criminalization of marine rules, we're going to have a huge problem, because you're it. If we had a whole series of port security officers throughout the county,
Because when you get the criminalization rules of the port, it's also not just the Port of Allyn, it's the Port of Greatview, it's every port in the county.
Right.
That's what you're saying, even Port Shelby.
right. So if the commissioners and the executive director, I'm still working it through. I need the language to make sure we have the authority to issue civil infractions, which I know we do. I just got to get that language pulled up. And then I'll get the cost for the books, and then we got to research what collection agency we want to use. You can hang paper, get out, whatever we get back. Otherwise, it's on the boater's, it's on the boater's credit history. Well, it's not even on that. It's on,
Sure.
so,
I've got a few other ideas to discuss after.
yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
Do you record at the county, do you record those infractions at the county? Is that part of it?
When you write a traffic infraction,
Mhm.
they're recorded with the county.
Okay,
But I'm writing it to that person.
okay.
If I write like a Discovery Pass ticket, when I was with Fish and Wildlife, I wrote it to that vehicle. I didn't know who drove that vehicle in. Could have been a son or daughter, could have been a neighbor borrowing that Discovery Pass. I wrote it to that vehicle. that went to the collection agencies, the Discovery Pass tickets. So unless I had somebody that came into a Fish and Wildlife access or state park access, and I got them out of the vehicle and wrote it to their driver's license, it went to the vehicle or to the boat. So, and that's the same thing with the red light cameras and everything, it just goes to the vehicle. So we got into a little bailiwick here that we need to figure out a way out. So.
The camera's gonna be the big one, because it just gives us recorded evidence of stuff that's being seen when I'm not there. And because if we have that, then we can kind of head off some of this stuff. We've got video evidence there immediately.
Well, there was people, it was very busy on Sunday in our lot on the North Shore, and there was people there working on their cars in the main lot, and people were trying to get through and get out, and people parking across the street, which that lot looks great across the street.
Yeah.
But you had to have peer pressure to move them on. Okay, quit working on your car. We've got boats trying to get in and get out. So I'm done with my soapbox. Apologize.
No, that's great. We need to hear that. We need
Yeah,
to
thanks.
get some better understanding. Please.
When
Oh,
Pat-
sorry, Chapman.
Is
Is that
Can
okay?
you come up here?
I'm
We
sorry.
got the,
I'm Bonnie Knight from Allyn. I was just going to say, when Pat Jones was the director, what's the kid's name now?
Eric.
Eric. He basically worked with the small ports, and he really understood them, and we didn't get lost in the shuffle. And if anything, I would make a recommendation to them that they do have a direct contact other than the director, because they get overwhelmed with the big ports. And they got a lot of stuff done. He's the one that helped us protect the lease out here. Helped
Yeah.
us work through that, and they actually got legislation changed for us. So that would be my input on that, is if they'll do it. It'd be very helpful.
So making sure that they work with a liaison. Again, I think like what he said, having them know the difference between the small ports and the big ports.
They
And-
were there, and
yeah.
He was our point of contact.
Yeah.
all right, let's move on to new business. Discussion of an Endurance settlement offer, action to accept, reject, or counter. So I personally would like to study this a little longer. And I don't think I'm prepared to make my own decision on whether we accept, reject, or counter. And I think the counter sounds good, but to get it all in front of me and kind of see everything. And I don't know if we need to have a special meeting for that, or if you guys are ready to make a decision.
I mean, the lawyers are expecting us to make some kind of decision, because they want some direction about what to do here.
What was their recommendation again? Because I just don't want to,
They think they can get, excuse me, they think they can get another $10,000 out of Honduras, but they don't think they'll get a lot more.
The email recommendation was to accept their offer. And then today you got that other.
Okay.
So their first recommendation via email was to accept the 19,000.
I wrote her this big long missive on Saturday. She said, well, you brought up some points I hadn't really thought of.
Well, I'm just going to throw this out because I know that if we want to get this done, we got to get it started. I don't know if you want to do a special meeting. I think it should be soon if we are for a decision, but I would go with what the lawyer says, but I don't want to, Honduras has the power to say yay or nay, and I don't want to get them too ticked off either to say no. I think we have some valid reasons why we need to go for more. So I think going with.
I obviously do.
Well, of course, and that's good. That's your job, is to
I feel
protect
very
us.
strongly about this. They have jerked us around for 6 months.
Mhm.
And, we're losing money every day that dock is closed.
Absolutely.
And they feel like, well, that's not their problem. I feel like, yeah, it is, you know, that you caused the problem.
Mhm.
So, but I'm not talking to Honduras, that's the attorney's job. But she feels that, you know, we have some vulnerability over a couple of maintenance issues. But,
Divers report.
yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So, you know, what I had thought was we counter back with the full price of the southern section repair and see what Honduras says. And, you know, what's the worst they're gonna do, say no?
Hold the other money.
Yeah.
I agree with your option, the option two.
Okay.
And I think there should be some more money associated with the doctor part. So option one just seemed, we'll take care of you guys, go away. But I agree with option two that we need to explore getting more money out of them for that damage.
Yeah.
So,
So
Okay.
for today's decision, we have, accept the offer that Honduras has given us. We have Mary's counter offer, then we have special meeting to study it and move on from there.
You know, if you wanna do that, I mean, we can get the attorney on the phone so you all can hear what she has to say.
Yeah, I personally would like that because something's changed from earlier today to this evening. And, I mean,
It's Mowgli.
okay.
Oh, is that
I
what
mean,
that
yeah,
is?
and, I mean,
Which is a dog. It's her dog.
we could do it in a week.
Okay.
I don't know what your guys' schedule is, but
Well, I could
we
probably
got
do
4th
it.
of July coming up. And
Yeah.
Well, how about next Monday? What's that look
I will tentatively say yes, but
yeah, I would say yes right now.
my calendar is the car.
Could you?
like? That would be the 8th.
Yeah,
Oh,
think
I have a meeting that night.
Well, we're talking about doing
During
a-
the day?
During
the day I
yeah.
can.
Because business
Noon.
hours for the attorney.
It's at 6.
We got
Business
business
hours.
hours for the attorney.
Okay.
So maybe do like a lunch meeting like we did.
Would a
last
lunch
one.
meeting work? I can do
Yes.
that.
Okay, so noon and on the 8th.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and, oops. This,
The resolution in here.
Yes.
Okay, I will let her know, and that what we want is for her to call, yeah. So we can all, you all can hear what she has to say.
Okay.
So we're going to table item A to our meeting on Monday.
Okay.
Designate an official auditor and action to approve resolution 401. WPPA believes that this is a best practice. I believe it's a best practice as well. I have no desire to be the port's auditor. Do you,
Oh, no.
Commissioner Scott?
I would be
Commissioner Jackson?
competent at that.
And I would entertain a motion to
And it would be inappropriate for me to be.
Chairman, I move that we accept Resolution 401, which is the resolution of the Port of Allyn Commission on the subject of appointing an auditor. I will read therefore, whereas it's recommended as best practice, Port of Allyn appoint an official auditor via resolution on an annual basis. This appointment should coincide with the adoption of the annual budget. Whereas since the port is more than halfway through its 2019 fiscal year, this appointment shall be in effect until December 31st, 2019. The 2020 appointment will be made on the same time the 2020 annual budget is adopted. Therefore, let be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners, after duly considering all relevant evidence, has elected to appoint Mrs. Leanne Dennis as the port's auditor for the balance of 2019. That appointment may be extended through the year 2020 as being incorporated into the resolution the Commission adopts to approve the 2020 annual budget.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to approve resolution number 401. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Congratulations.
Item C, discussion of levy increase.
You know, we've kind of talked about this off and on since, you know, the 5 years that I've been here. And I just kind of wanted to open the dialogue about how you all feel about it.
Didn't you do a kind of a sliding scale of what we'd be at?
Yes, I did.
And we're at 14 cents per
We're at
thousand.
18 cents.
18 cents per thousand, with the ability to go up to 45 cents per
Right.
thousand. The increase from 18 to 45 was not large.
No, it wasn't. You know, our net revenue isn't all that large. We go from about 250,000 to about 400,000. You know, now as real estate values increase,
That goes down.
yeah, you know, our net would increase, but, you know, what I wanted to know was basically, do you want to look into doing this and move forward? Because it's something we're gonna have to sell to the community.
Sure.
But we need to be able to say, here's what we're gonna do with this money, and here's why we need it. And we need to make acceptable arguments, because we're asking people to tax themselves.
Well, I'm thinking we need to do our retreat and let's come up with a plan, but again, in my mind, we need a good project. you
Yeah.
know, To warrant this kind of, if we do.
On the outside, I'm opposed to any tax increase unless we have a good
Yeah.
project that, you know, the community can buy into.
Yeah.
Lots of community input, lots of.
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
there's gotta be
yeah.
a ton of community process.
It's
Yeah.
just it's a tough sell for anybody, but I think ports have a tougher sell than
Well, you know,
schools.
Port of Duato has a higher tax rate than
They
we
do, yeah.
Really?
But a much
What is
lower
theirs?
assessed value.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true, because waterfront land.
The other thing I thought about with this was, if we, it's tied to this actually, it has to do with our lobbyists. And I think that what I'd like to bring up at the next WPPA meeting, and I'm gonna do this at the executive director seminar, is the idea that we're limited to 2 IDDs in the entire, you know, this port's gonna be 100 years old. And, you know, in 100 years, they could do 2 IDDs. That,
No more after that.
yeah, you know, that what we try to do is get the law changed that would let us do, you know, more IDDs, but you couldn't have any 2 of them going on at once. That you'd have to, you know,
Yeah.
pay off one before you could do another. And I want to see how that resonates with the other executive directors and, you know, our new port executive director. But I wanted to just see what you all thought about that.
Well, now that we're getting ancient.
Because
you know,
if we could do that, we wouldn't need a levy increase particularly.
Well, the good thing is with the law change now too, is that we don't have to go through the whole, I mean, we don't have to.
Yeah, we have
ask
20
for the whole
years.
money.
Yeah, we have 20 years to pay it off.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with having the discussion at the retreat,
Mhm.
but the only way I would do a levy increase, if we could document increased jobs in North Mason County.
Good point, that's right.
I really
Yeah.
think we need to get back to our part of our core values and creating jobs
Yep.
up here. So economic development, So if we could document that we're creating jobs and do a levy increase by purchasing property and bringing a business in, or bringing a couple businesses in, or developing our own business, I'd be more than happy to run with that. So, but I think we need to start having that discussion, so.
I agree.
Okay.
Next item is potential discussion of additional items.
I didn't know if anybody had anything else they wanted to talk about.
Do you have anything more about what you want to see in executive director?
Oh, I think I'll just agree with what's already been said. Is there's the Port of Seattle, there's the Port of Tacoma, and then there's the Port of Dewato and the Port of Allyn. We're small, but we still believe we need to be represented in that office. And I think Eric did a good job. I mean, I think that's big shoes to fill. And
Well, maybe,
The committees that I serve on are economic development, legislative, and marine.
Mhm.
And the Port of Seattle and the Port of Tacoma, and to some extent the Port of Vancouver, drive economic development and legislative. And what we hear, like in the legislative committee, is how everything is tied to climate change. You know, no matter what we're discussing here, there's some climate change hook to it. And that's those guys driving that.
how about if I put here, take time to visit us,
Yeah.
recognize that we are rural and usually conservative, because that's one thing that I don't know if, like necessarily.
You know, Mason County is the only county that touches Puget Sound that voted for Trump.
Oh,
I don't know that.
For what that's worth.
anything else that you can think of that pinpoints,
Just what small ports are sometimes all about, recreation. And
Yeah.
You know, what does each port is unique, and what its mission is unique, and what it does is unique, and we need them to recognize that that's part of who we are. And I think for the most part, the Port of Seattle and the Port of Tacoma and the Port of Vancouver, they drive the agenda, and that's not necessarily in our best interest.
Another thing that maybe we could tell them is that we need avenues. I mean, we already have RCO and CURB grants, but, make sure that they can champion what our needs are
Yeah.
in regards to grants and loans and for
I mean-
economic development and tourism.
Yeah, the whole big thing that they got through the last session in legislature was about broadband. Well,
Yeah.
that
which
doesn't do a thing
touch
for us.
Okay.
So
Anything else?
We need them to,
Okay.
take the initiative to represent things smaller ports need. I mean, getting broadband authority was a good thing, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But we need things that will help us as well.
Okay. Anything else?
All right.
Done with that?
So we are done with new business items. We will open it up to public comment. Public?
Good evening. Michael Subtroth. I live at Trails End Lake, and I'm glad to see that there is some continuing effort around the Sweetwater Park. Sweetwater Creek Park is something that I think will help to attract more visitors to our area, in turn spending more money, which will help the Allyn area, and it will give people more recreational opportunities to help their physical fitness and relaxation, which is needed as well. The other thing that I'm particularly interested in is whether there's been any movement on the idea of the trail from Belfair State Park to the Department of Fish and Wildlife property / Salmon Center, which then links to Feller, which would link to this Sweetwater Park. So I don't know if you're considering that, if you might bring it up at the retreat or sometime, but I think that would be a very complementary part of this whole endeavor. And as Pat talked about when he proposed this, there are those people in the area, Lynch Cove, et cetera, who just have no way safely to get from North Shore to South Shore because there's no right-of-way, no margin of safety for people to cross the existing bridge across the Union River. Yeah, I mean, you're going to take your life in your hands. And there are students that I teach at Sand Hill Elementary who would like to get over to Feller, the Salmon Center, but they can't do that unless their parents drive them, and parents are working, so that's not likely to happen. So they're cut off from one of the best assets that we have to offer, and I think that could be something that people could perhaps get their financial support behind, because it will make a linkage which is going to make our communities stronger. I have last year voluntarily set up a recycling and composting station for the Allyn Days, because my experience in the past was that there were only one, maybe two receptacles to accept recycling for Allyn Days, and there were there's nothing there to accept composting. And so I set it up last year, and this year I reached out more to the Allyn Community Association, and they agreed that we should do that. Last year, just soliciting comments from people, they were like, oh yeah, we're used to this happening. Everything else, everywhere else we go, there's full recycling and there's composting available. So their mindset is, yeah, why not? We do this already. And cutting down the amount of things that go into the landfill, garbage stream, instead of having that, which is more costly, and then nothing's going to come of it. But recycling, even though I know there are problems with it, it's an effort, and we're trying to deal with how to make recycling more cost effective. Composting is a way of, again, ensuring that part of what we produce in our world goes back into the positive part of regenerating soil, instead of just becoming more of the landfill and garbage. I'm continuing to be available. I will take things home and recycle them, and the Allyn Community Association will be requesting more volunteer help, but I've already lined up a couple of people who will help me in this endeavor. And I think it's just a way of making Allyn Days a little bit special and saying, hey, we're in this together, and our consciousness around the importance of taking care of our earth is highlighted. So that's what I plan on doing, and I think it's going to go well.
This is Cipro. I've always, or for the last 15 years, I've done the salmon, worked on the salmon crew. Mm-hmm. We're going through 300-yard aluminum foil. Mm-hmm. And we're just throwing it in the same garbage can. And when you were speaking about that, how can we could separate it in a separate container, and I think everybody on that crew would be more than happy to do that. But how would you deal with that? Or how would somebody else deal with that?
I think that's very difficult, because in order to recycle aluminum foil, it has to be relatively clean.
Right.
So if you add that into other recycling, you're going to jeopardize the entire recycling being rejected, and I don't want that to happen. So I don't really see an easy way of recycling aluminum foil that's been contaminated with an animal product that isn't easily washed. If it could be washed really easily, and then it could be recycled, but I don't think that would happen.
I hear what you're saying, so I think the salmon crew just needs to dump it in the same garbage can that we have been for years, because it gets intermingled with paper towels, latex gloves, and
Yeah, that's a no salvageable
okay.
item, unfortunately. Corn cobs, the skins of the salmon, when we do that, we can compost those things, but, and depending on the quality of the plate, you can compost the plates, which is beneficial. Napkins can be composted. If they're not plasticized cups, they can be composted. Yeah, but boy, when you get into dirty foil, that's just not there. But all the bottles, all the water bottles and other things that people generate, all those are 100% recyclable.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Just a reminder to what you had said about the trail.
Yes.
That's in our comprehensive scheme
Yeah.
to support that project.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm Bonnie Knight, North Bay Historical Society. I spent all afternoon with Ina in Tacoma at a mandatory contract meeting for the grant that we're getting. And it's a challenge. It's going to be a real challenge. They think they could probably get it signed by the end of August if we have everything that they require. And it is really more than any grant I've ever done. And one of the first things that we have to do is get in writing some kind of an agreement with the port for the North Bay Historic Society to run it down the line that we would be responsible for, running the facility and whatever. They also require that nothing else happen with it for 13 years. We have to make sure that that's, when you get a grant, that's the term of this grant. So we have to have some kind of acknowledgement that, yeah, it's going to be there for 13 years. We have to have every single expenditure, every single receipt, copy of it, no matter how small, and we have a lot of small ones. It's going to take a huge effort, and I need Leanne to get whatever the port had, any receipts, and we can get copies from her on that. Yeah, it's going to be really a major challenge in the next 2 months to do. And Nicholas Van, he was there, and he's one of the speakers, and he wants to be involved in the actual contracting for the business, for the work. And so we need to arrange to have him review that and incorporate whatever they have to in it from the grant perspective. And that's not undoable. It's just another step that we have to go through that we've never had to do before. And they, of course, like any other grant, any other budget, they look at it a totally different way than anybody else. So it's just going to be a matter of a lot of sorting, and we'll work with Leanne on what we can. And we're moving ahead. And so we're ready to do that, and I'll work with Larry to get some kind of an operating agreement, because that's a big deal for them, that we actually have something in writing that says, yes, you're going to be able to maintain this as the building that, we're paying for.
I think that's easy.
Well,
we'll agree to it, so.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big, huge thing. They have very little, it just has to be an agreement in writing by the commissioners, and, yes, it's okay to do that. I'm also going to ask them if the property that you've allowed the Sergeant Oyster thing to be on, if we can consider that as match, if the port has dedicated it to the project we wanted you to. I'm really hoping they'll allow us to count that as match. It's really, really complicated today. It's going to be a challenge, but I think we're going to be okay.
Is there language, Bonnie, that we could adopt pretty quickly about making sure that stays in 13 years, at least 13 years, with the Historical Society?
Yeah, I think I can get something from Nick, because everybody has to do it.
Yeah, I was
Any
just
kind of
gonna
a
ask
contract
if
they
there's not
have.
some boilerplate
Yeah,
thing
and that's
for
with the
that.
contract too, he's got boilerplate we need to stick in the contract. And so I'll ask him on this agreement too, that I'm sure that they do, because everybody does. And we had not, strangely, met the 0505 regulation, which has, it's the governor's office review of any historic preservation stuff. And when the project began, the South Puget Sound Salmon Enhancement people were doing the restoration thing down there. And they just kind of skipped the state and went right to federal. So they never went through that process. State never knew about this building. And we got it stopped at the 106 process, and they said, yes, that's what it actually is. But going forward, what Larry has done with the archaeological thing out here is going to suit you guys well for the ground. We still have to go through and get the approval from, even though we've been working with them for 9 years, we have to get that in writing, so I'll take care of that. But we've been kind of sorting out which piece is which, and I think it's going to work out okay. Talked with Lisa today, and she's right on top of it. So we were the only one they couldn't write a scope of work for. Because there's still, the way we changed it has changed our scope of work. So anyway, I think we're okay on that.
On the receipts that you are requiring, is it for everything that we've done?
Everything.
Wow.
Every bit of donated, I have to have an invoice
Oh, dear.
and have to have it marked paid. And the canceled check for everybody else, we still have to document bids and things like that. And they have to be in chronological order over the last 6 years. For every $1.45 that we have spent, I have to get copies of every single one of them. I have to get an invoice from Bill Ray. I need to get an invoice from Mike Ross. I need to get an invoice from the guy that did the windows. And Rex did give me an invoice already on his, a paid one, so that was a big chunk. But yeah, it's
I've
going to be a
given
real challenge.
Yeah, I've given you a few, but there was a lot that I didn't document, so I'll have to.
Yeah, and all of the volunteer work that was done, I told you, we have sheets on that we're going to have to go back, and I'll recreate as much as I can, but then everybody has to sign it. And yeah, it's going to be a major, hundreds of hours of work by the time we get done. So, but I think we're on track. They're working with us, so we're all good with that.
So the hundreds of hours of work, is that a match?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, and anything that is not specifically construction, and I knew this, Jennifer told me this before, but all the meetings don't count, unless the consulting was specifically for construction, it doesn't count. I think the consultant that you did will write that off.
Yeah.
That can be a match. But yeah, everything that, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, but yeah, it's a challenge. And they've been they were very, very clear today on you can take this, but you cannot do this. And there were a lot of cannots. And so some of the stuff we've had in there, I have to sort all of that out and then put it together in a totally different format than what it is right now. So Allyn and I are working together to get everything that we've had on that side. I have to account for every penny that's come in for the last 6 years. And it's going to be a challenge, but I like working with Leanne and Mary, we can get it done. Because I'm hoping to have the contract. She put us at the head of the pack, because I told her we'd like to have the fall work done this fall. And if we can, I don't know, Larry, is August, the end of August, early enough to get a contract done with that? With the bid, you think?
I'm sure we can figure it out.
Because that's about the earliest we can get it.
What was, another question, will you tell me what was the contract with Nicholas Van, or what was his?
When we contract to have the work done, Larry's done the bids, we've got those going. When we actually contract with the person, Nick has to be involved to make
Oh.
sure that their language is included in
Yes,
it.
okay.
And so they want to be involved in that process to make sure everything is meets the grant standards.
Yes, okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bonnie, for all your work.
Yeah, you'll consider me working with it.
So your 1,000 hours isn't a match?
Grant stuff, no, no, isn't much.
Any other public
Yes.
comment, Lenny?
I don't want to get this down.
You gotta be on the camera. You wore your best hat.
One quick thing. I Ted Jackson and Scott Cooper. I'm glad to see your strengths coming through. I'm very appreciative.
Thank you.
Continue
Thank
on.
you.
Peter.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I have something for good to the order. If you have not visited the Burger Claim, the owners are outstanding. Their food is good, and I think it's great to have another choice in Belfair and another business. And you know, that was an empty building for quite a while, so I'm glad to see that. And if you have an opportunity to support that new business, please do.
Looking forward to it.
And I could be witness, he really was at safety days.
I will both days
Yes, I know.
in uniform.
If I could add one thing, what I saw today on the news, Leanne, Executive Director, and Commissioner Scott, hotels are being tapped through their Wi-Fi, through electronic window openings. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah, so if,
That's why we have the VPN, and I put it on all of your iPads.
yeah, it was just, after the conference last week, it's just amazing to see what these folks can do to get into our computers and get into our phones and everything else.
Yeah.
And say that on those tips that we've been getting, when I go in my junk mail, I get every one of those that he's listed.
Wow.
Yeah,
The same
the-
ones Florida's getting.
The guy that did the cyber seminar there, Chris Carter from the Port of Vancouver, he has a mailing list with weekly tips and stuff to watch out for now, so I've signed us up.
Oh, good.
But, you know, I put the VPN on your stuff there a year and a half ago, but I can't force you to turn it off.
Doesn't it automatically turn on?
I don't know what.
Because I think it does.
It may, because there is a setting for automatic, but.
Yeah, because I've seen mine.
But it's NordVPN.
Yeah.
So
Could, we'd never know. Say, can I see your iPad?
I'm just saying. But anytime you stay in a hotel, those are unsecured networks.
Yeah, that's true.
Minutes, resolution 401, and water fund vouchers.
No, I saw it around.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll all sign. All right, if there's no other good to the order, meeting adjourned. And that's for Commissioner Scott.